Welcome back, and for another session of Let's Talk and Grow with Miss Roshumba, part 2, with her sister here, Sabrina the Songstress. I'm going to continue a little reading that I done on a nice In the Spirit article that, I want to say article, but it was an inspiration that she did every month, Miss Susan Taylor. Grand Design was what she written on this, and this is part 2. If you haven't seen part 1 of Let's Talk and Grow, this is the second part of that statement. You start to build with the light of every day. How do you feel, and what do you see when you awaken? Do you stumble out of bed cursing the morning, dreading the day? Instead, even before you open your eyes or lift your head from your pillow, you should get centered in joy and peace. Get into positive flow. Whisper, all that is for my good is streaming toward me. I can feel it and believe it. Each new day offers new possibilities. Give thanks for this one. Get up with a smile, with positive expectations. You don't need drugs, not even caffeine or nicotine, to get yourself going. Put your mind in charge. Make your mind move your body. Stretch, bend, go for a brisk walk. If you want your day to be positive and productive, you have to start it that way. So that's a continuation of the reading that she had written on September 1988. Is this still applicable in 2023? I think so. You know, so I think I've gotten better at it for myself. And like I said, my sister and I here, we have in common Susan Taylor as our role model. So sister, I want to continue to ask you some questions. And you started off on the other session to touch bases on what caused you to leave your job of the state for some 30 odd years and begin to take on a new way of making a life for yourself. And you know, with it, why don't you go ahead and tell the audience what happened?
Okay. Anyway, I was working for the state of California. Actually, I worked for a lot of different agencies, but the agency at that time was Department of Mental Health. And California has the largest mental health department of any state in the country.
Wow.
Yes.
California.
And I was a manager in human resources. So you can imagine how much activity.
Yes.
Trying to hire, psychiatrists, psychologists, other doctors and nurses and so on. And so it was, I'll just sum it up. It was interesting.
Yes.
Okay. A bit more than I wanted to continue doing. So,
a lot of stress.
Managing staff. Mm-hmm. Yes. And so we had put on our holistic health conference in 2006. Mm-hmm. The one you said you went to, that Susan Taylor.
Was that one of your first?
No, that was our last one. Not long after that, well, I still was chairperson for a while, but eventually I let all that go because I opened up my own. That's a whole other story. I became a practitioner myself.
Okay.
But
let me pause you there for a minute, if I may.
Yeah.
Had you already started African American for Balanced Health, or?
Yes. Let me go back to that.
Yeah.
You did ask.
Yeah, please tell us when you started that and how that connected, and were you doing it at the time you were working? So let us know how, because that's big when she started. Yeah. It still exists today.
Yes, it does.
So.
That when I started that, I was actually like 39, 40 years old. That was in 1996.
1996.
Yes.
African American for Balanced Health. What is that?
Yeah. So we're going up on what? How many years? 30.
Yeah. So 96.
Yeah. Going on 30 in 2026. It'll be 30 years.
Correct.
Right? So We started that as a result, or got the idea as a result of me changing my lifestyle.
Okay.
I decided that I wanted to make some changes. I felt I needed to make some changes because I didn't want doctors dictating my fate to me.
Okay.
When I was 11 years of age, I started having issues with eyesight.
Okay.
10 or around 10ish.
Yes.
Which I'm later told might be tied to what I told you earlier.
Right.
Me not wanting to see when my parents broke up.
Okay.
So that's a whole nother.
It's connected,
Yeah,
but you
it's
know,
all connected,
we've touched
yeah.
on it earlier, but
Yeah.
this is another part of now how she evolved into asking herself some questions and seeking to answer it in a lifestyle change.
Yeah. So I started having night blindness as a kid, and then I was right around 39, 40, because I drove until it got dark. I always had to park my car.
Okay.
I had to be in my driveway before dark. So wintertime, I was like, oh my God, 5 o'clock. Right?
Okay.
I loved the summer because I could drive till 9 o'clock at night.
Right.
But anyway, so I played that game for many years, you know. And
Night blindness.
And it
Couldn't
later
see at night.
Yeah, later got diagnosed as retinitis pigmentosa.
Retinitis pigmentosa?
Yeah, I was 16 when they diagnosed it.
Okay.
Because as a kid, my mom would take me to the doctors. They couldn't figure it out. Okay, it's a rare condition, but I've met many people now with it's not like very common like some other conditions, but so anyway, I at about 30, I was around 39 or so. I'm because I was driving, but I noticed I started having issues during the day.
Okay.
So I stopped driving. I said, you know what? I don't want to be responsible for hurting myself, and especially not somebody else. Okay,
Exactly.
That's even worse to me. So I stopped. And my brother was like, "Well, you still got your license?" I'm like, "Yeah, I know. I worked for DMV for 12 years. They don't test for everything. Okay, I already know. Okay, so I'm not going by that."
Exactly.
Okay, so I stopped. So that was the time I started looking for answers. Like, well, I'm not just going to sit here and go blind. I'm not, because the doctors always said no treatment, no cure, ultimately you're blind. And I found out that people normally in their 30s, they go blind.
Okay.
So 20s, 30s, some of them,
Right.
So.
But you could see during the day, and you were still working at the state.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, so when I start realizing there was date issues during the daytime or in the light, I started looking for answers. I said, I'm not going to sit here and just go by what the doctors say. There's nothing you can do. So I guess there's a saying that when the student's ready, the teacher will appear, right?
The teacher will appear,
Yeah.
That's correct.
A couple of people tried to talk to me when I was in my early 20s, but I'm like, I'm not trying to hear that. In fact, we were at a barbecue once, and there was a gentleman. Yeah, you child, you can heal your eyes. Blah, blah, blah. I'm like, I'm walking past with my barbecue ribs, I'm not thinking about. I'm like, yeah, or whatever. So I didn't listen.
Yeah.
But anyway, later.
And they were implying through diet.
Yes, because he was vegetarian.
Okay.
Yeah, so I knew, and that's the other thing. I'm like,
Yeah.
So I knew he was vegetarian. I'm like, I'm not trying to hear that. I got my barbecue rib in my hand. Okay, we were at a barbecue. So, but fast forward, I started reading about the colon, and I'll skip what led me to reading about it.
Yes.
But I started reading about, and in fact, someone in my office, she was my manager at because I started taking these colon cleansers. And I didn't know Dr. Goss then, but turns out it was his. Someone took me there. The person that gave me the colon cleansers took me, and they were just capsules you take. And I actually lost about 8 pounds because I'm gonna use the word, I'm the poop patrol. I was finally starting to poop. Okay.
Yes.
I didn't know how important that moving waste out of your body was to
on
help.
a daily basis.
On a daily basis, okay?
Because you eat it on a daily basis.
Yes. I didn't know. I'm thinking, okay, 2-3 times a week, or even if it's once a day, sometimes that's not enough, but that's really good compared to most.
Right.
But if you're eating 3 meals a day, you really should go on 3 meals, at least twice a day.
You're the audience?
So, yeah. Now I've studied. Later, I became a practitioner. So,
okay, health practitioner.
Yes, I had my own center, what was called the Natural Living Center for Wellness. It was called
Natural Living Center for Wellness.
Yes.
And you were a health practitioner. Was that your title?
Yeah, I called myself a health and wellness consultant.
A consultant.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I could have taken the term naturopathic doctor, but I didn't want to. I said, oh, that's putting a lot.
Mm-hmm.
But that's where actually what I was certified as. And after we founded African Americans for Balanced Health.
Okay.
So when I changed my lifestyle, because that colon cancer led me to start really looking into, and someone brought me a magazine, and she was my manager.
And she still working at the state.
I'm working for the state.
Yeah.
And she says, is this, because I was telling people about these colon pills, right? And people were wanting them because they thought, that I lost weight, blah, blah, blah. So a little bit of weight, okay? Now my major weight loss came later because I was overweight.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, big time, 50 pounds.
50 pounds overweight?
Yeah, I lost 50 pounds. Eventually, this time I only lost like 8 because I wasn't doing anything else. I was just taking those pills. I hadn't changed.
Right.
And my manager brought me this magazine. I think it's called Longevity. And she said, are these the pills you're taking? Blah, blah, blah. And I said, no, but let me see that magazine. And it said it had an ad in there, or an article that said 95% of all diseases are caused by toxins in the colon, including disease of the eye. I was like, what? Yeah.
So that was eye-opening.
Yeah, I thank you. That was
caught her attention.
Yes. So I'm like, well, shoot, really? Then I thought, well, then I need to change what I'm putting in my colon, which means I change what I put in my mouth. But how do you do that? I didn't know how to do, because I'm so used to all the, I was the queen of making peach cobblers.
Yeah.
And, so anyway, fast forward, I started looking at, well, I didn't, I knew I needed to do something. So
the universe brought the answer to you.
Yes. And I actually was at what was then called Florin Mall. I was singing. How the way I changed my lifestyle. I'm going to give kudos to my good friend Bobby Waters. Bobby Waters, shout out to you if you out there listening and watching.
I know her. Yes.
Yeah, you know Bobby Waters.
I do know her. Another great queen.
Yes. And she's now the chairperson of African Americans for Balanced Health.
Did you start the program with her?
We co-founded,
co-founded
in my living room.
Wow.
But first I changed my life. I changed because I saw her. She had made changes.
Okay.
I knew Bobby way before African Americans for Balanced. We used to party together.
Okay. Did she work for the state as well?
She eventually did.
Okay.
At first, no.
Okay.
But in fact, she's retiring right now. So congratulations, Bobby.
Yes, congratulations.
So I saw her at the mall, and I could see by her skin, it was so clear, and she had lost a lot of weight and all too. I mean, well, I hadn't, but she had. I was still big. And I said, what did you do? What did you do? I wanted whatever. I knew instinctively that's what I needed. I wasn't looking at the weight loss. There was just something about it. She was glowing. Yes, because I didn't know I was going to lose weight. Okay, when I was doing it for the eyes.
Right.
So she referred me to who she went to, a naturopathic doctor, Dr. Jay Garland, and I went to her and I said, can you help me with the eye thing? And she said, sure, I can help you. I said, okay. So when do I start? What do I do? So I went to her that next week. She put me on a cleansing program to detox my body temple. And I was losing 3 to 5 pounds a week. Within 8 weeks, I lost 35 pounds. The first few weeks, I said, so I'm going to lose weight on this? She goes, yeah. I said, how much? She goes, what size were you in high school? So So I told her, she goes, that's the size you'll be. And that's the size I am.
To
Never
this day.
gained it back. I was dieting before that, yo-yoing, lose 10 pounds, going, oh, I did good.
Yeah.
And gain 15. And that's how I kept going up. Lose 15, gain 20.
Yeah.
Lose 20, gain 25. And I kept going back and forth. So it just kept coming off and coming off. And yes, at that time I was wearing glasses. The glasses got to be too strong. I thought I picked up somebody else's glasses in my office. And I went to ask one of my coworkers, I said, these aren't my glasses, right? And she's like, yeah, because they had a rose tint because of the retinitis. Mm-hmm. She says, you know, it's probably happening because this person knew about health and wellness. She says, your glasses are probably too strong. And sure enough, they were. So anyway, I got some results with that. But what wait a minute, I got mega results. The biggest results I got was all my meds went away. I was on 3 different meds at 39, 40. How many would I be on now? All the meds went away. My skin cleared up. I was even on meds for that at that time because I had bad skin. Everything just went away. The extra weight melted off. I had to get all my clothes altered or give them away, whatever. It was a whole new life, a whole transformation. And so with that, within a year, Bobby and I, because we're shopping at the natural grocer, right? Natural Foods Co-op. And so we would be talking, have you tried this? Have you tried this? It was so new. And I had new recipes and learned how to retrain myself. And so we would talk, we'd be in the store talking, me, her, and another gentleman named Al. And it's like, oh, I gotta go. It's been an hour. I'm on my way home from work at the store. It's like, I gotta go home, to cook. And we said, we need to get together and educate our people because I didn't know. I was going by what the doctors told me.
Yes.
I was thinking I had to be on these meds. I was thinking that, I didn't know the weight would diminish. I didn't know that I needed to change my lifestyle. I learned proper food combining. I learned how to recook greens, not to cook my greens to death. Yes. So on and so forth. Wow, so that's
keeping the food alive,
keeping it alive,
much as possible.
Right, so it can be nutritious.
Right.
And so once we finally got together, me and Bobby, Al wasn't there. Let's get together and see how we could start educating the community. And it was just going to be 2 of us, and really 3. Al couldn't make it, but our first meeting, I don't know how other people found out, but we had 7 people.
Were they mainly people from the job or just?
No, they weren't from the job.
Okay.
Somebody, who's an ancestor now, she passed away last year. Her sons are my very good friends, Dwayne Webb and Stephen Webb. Shout out to you if you're watching. Bernice Jackson. You know Bernice?
Yes. She passed away last year.
Mm-hmm. She was she called my house. I didn't know her then. I didn't even know she was Dwayne and Stephen's mother till a year later. And she said, I heard you're having a vegetarian meeting at your house. I'd like to come. I said, well, it's not a vegetarian meeting. I don't know what we're calling it, but you can come. She lived in Vallejo then.
Yeah.
And so she came up, and there were other people that came, and it's like 7 of us.
Okay.
Like, what the heck? Wow. It was in my living room. And we said, yes, we need to educate our people. And so
that was the founding
of it. And so we came up with a title. It was first called African Americans for Better Health. But then eventually when we did our brochure, and I said, let me think of how we really want to do. I said, let's say balanced health, because it's mind, body, spirit.
To balance all 3 together.
Yes. It's
mind,
not just
body,
physical.
And spirit. Yes.
Right. So we have a scales. Our logo is a scales that's balanced. And then underneath is mind, body, spirit. And I said African Americans for Balanced Health. I was the chairperson.
You were the chair.
And they all go, well, you should be, I guess because it was at my house. I don't know. And I had that experience. I used to be president of black state employees, black advocates in state
So
service.
you're always in that leadership role.
Yeah, I was involved. I always wanted to be involved in forward movement.
Forward movement.
And
That's what I'm
BAS
looking at.
was to me, and I was the ultimate activist. Now I wasn't leadership. I had a lot of mentors, like Grantland Johnson and Tyrone.
So you knew when to be a student.
Yeah.
You knew when to be a student, so
Right.
eventually you
Then
would
I-
be the teacher.
Exactly.
So the Balanced Health, African for Balanced Health, then started with, was it just the two of you and Bobby, or would you say there were Miss Bernice as well, or?
I'd say the idea came through Bobby and I.
Okay.
So we were the co-founders.
foundation.
Yeah, we're the founders.
Lovely. How many years later since that now?
That was 1996. So
96.
we're right now, we're in
Almost
2023.
3 years.
So it's 27 years.
Yeah.
27 years. Who
Wow.
would have thought? And
And you looking really
So-
good, glowing.
Ah,
I've known you for
thank
since
you.
2000. You know,
It's
I
been a
remember
long
going
time,
to that
yeah.
the same church we went together, or
right.
progressive church. It was not the traditional
Right, it's not the
African
traditional.
centered. It's but yeah, and you've always glowed and you know look
Aw,
well
thank
and
you.
youthful. Look at her face, y'all.
Ah, thank
Look at
you.
her.
And I will say, after, you know, I was chairperson, and 3 years later we started putting on those holistic health conferences.
Yes.
And then when I retired, and that's what led me to retiring. Like,
How many years after that? 3 was it? Did you say?
no, now we founded the organization in '96, and I retired 10 years later. I retired in '07.
Okay.
That '06 was when I decided, after we had Susan Taylor and Queen Afua here. That was our 5th conference.
Okay.
And I said, I want to go and live my life.
Yes.
I don't want to work for the state anymore. I want to go. I didn't know what I was going to do.
Yeah.
I knew I was going to have to do something, because getting 33% of my salary, and I'm a homeowner and all, that wasn't going to work,
Yeah.
right? But I mean, I said, this will pay my house note.
Yeah.
When I decided I'm going to do it. I did go and do the math first.
Right.
I went to CalPERS, the retirement system. And what would I get if I leave at 50? I was 49.
Right.
I was in '06, right after our holistic health conference with Susan Taylor and Queen Afua. I said, that's it.
So
I'm going to go explore something different. So when they told me what I get, I said, that'll pay my mortgage and the maintenance.
So
like the
you knew
utilities.
that it will cover your base, and that way you were able to strategize and say, now with that, the rest you could take a leap of faith.
It had to, because that wasn't going to cover food.
Right.
I said mortgage
Yeah.
and maintenance. And I said, you know what?
And healthy eating could be expensive. y'all.
Yeah, it could be. So I had to, but
Yeah.
there's farmers markets
Yeah.
and there's ways to.
That's correct.
And so what I did, I told myself, I said, you know what? I'm going to do it. The universe will work with me.
That's right.
And I stepped out on faith, and I said, this will pay my mortgage and these maintenance. And I would joke and tell my friends, I said, and I'll just because I had started singing by then. I was a late bloomer on that too, but I was 30. I had started singing, and I said, well, I may have to go to Pier 39, in San Francisco, and take my bucket and put my gardenia in my hair, because I used to do Billie Holiday tributes. And depending on what lands in the bucket for tips would determine if I slip on the beach or sleep at the Hyatt that night.
Wow. And
But I didn't have to it didn't come to that. Everything worked out. Go ahead.
and just to hear what she's saying, the clear mind through her diet helped her to see where she fit in her life and what she needed to do in order to live her best life now.
Yes.
Because when you cleanse out the body, your mind becomes clearer, and it allows you to take more of a risk and chances rather than just going mundanely through your life doing what you no longer like doing or should be. So you get to know when to graduate and move to the next level as needed.
Mm-hmm. And you're right, that's what Dr. Goss would say. You clean out here, the colon,
Yes.
and this becomes more clear.
Clearer.
Yeah, and I knew to go to my sister, who's a financial advisor, planner.
Mm-hmm.
Shout out to my sister Lala. Thank you, Lala. because
She knows a lot
she
of
kind of
books.
gave me
That's
a
her
little
sister.
advice. She said, well, before you retire, maybe you should do this, and I paid off some extra bills, and that was helpful.
That was helpful.
But I knew I needed. I mean, she kept saying, "You sure you gonna do? You sure?" I said, I've got to." Of course, she would have had me stay, but she did give me. Once she said, "Okay, well, if you're gonna do this, here's some things you can do to help."
And that's
prepare.
good for your family, having your family in line.
Yeah.
So that journey of choosing to, start up African American for Balanced Health and taking your health seriously, closed doors that no longer fit in, open doors that are now presented to you, and you got to meet a lot of these great folks. So tell me a little bit about how, you got to meet Dick Gregory.
Yes.
Dr. Sabi came to.
Dr. Sabi was one of our speakers.
Okay.
He came, and we
of
started
course,
out with
yeah.
Dr. African Goss being our keynote speakers.
So these people are no small folks. A lot of them are ancestors now, as you may know. But these were great people doing healthy living and healthy work. They were real teachers.
Oh yeah, Dr. Goss owned New Body Herbs. They were in 17 different countries.
So you can find him online now on
yes,
YouTube,
New Body
right?
Herbs. Yes. He's an ancestor now too. And he and Dr. Laila Africa were good friends. Laila Africa wrote the book, two wonderful books, Nutricide, which was a bestseller, Nutricide.
So please take note of what she's saying if you're open into changing your lives too.
Yeah. And the other book was African Holistic Health.
African Holistic Health. And the other one was?
Nutricide.
Nutricide.
Yeah, and Dr. Goss wrote the book Forever Young. And he wrote another book too, I can't remember.
Forever Young.
Forever Young. And they were my mentors. Even when I started my own practice, they were my mentor. I got my certification under Dr. Africa and then by the federal government eventually. But Dr. Sabi was our third conference from the British Honduras. A lot of people know him. Yes. And then...
is he also an ancestor now?
He's an ancestor.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Because they were elders then, weren't they?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. He's an ancestor. That was a fluke. We won't even go into that.
I've heard about that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then we had Dick Gregory after Dr. Sabi.
Dick Gregory.
And I got to hang out with him. He's that's one of the most powerful men who walked the planet. Dick Gregory.
Yeah.
I didn't know what we had when we had him here. I learned more about him afterwards. He was the first of so. And he was a millionaire. I didn't know he's a millionaire.
Yeah.
But more than that, just so much. And if you he did a good spill on Michael Jackson. He was very close with Michael Jackson.
Yeah.
They were close. And what he thinks happened to Michael Jackson.
Because you see, when your mind is clear, when you're putting the right food in your body, you're going to start seeing that you're creating great things for yourself, and then meeting great people in your community, people that normally you would not brush shoulders with. Folks like Dr. Sabi, Dick Gregory, Susan Taylor. These are all the folks she brushed shoulder with as she found her health doing the right thing by going inside and saying yes to difficulties that oftentimes we go through life and feel that, our goal is just to continue like a tumbleweed in the direction that we started out, and not knowing when to put on the brakes, when to adjust ourselves, when to ask the inward question, does this still work for us? But what she made clear is that it started when she decided to change what she ate, what she put in the sacred body, to clear the mind, balancing the soul, so she could live her best life now. There's more coming from her. I mean, I could sit here and listen, and folks, I like to talk a lot. I interject way too much sometimes if you've looked at some of my previous videos, but I'm truly a student today. I'm truly learning a lot. I've decided not long ago to really pump up my healthy eating. I've been balanced, but for the most part, wanting to be more healthy because it's more needed now than ever before as I age. So, part 2 is up. And we're about to slip into part 3 and go even further now about what health has done for our sister, the songstress. And she is a songstress because she does sing. Get her to give us a little tune today. I don't know. But part 3 is coming. So please, thank you for listening and staying with the show. And this series, we just finished part 2 with, like I said, our sister here. And we're going to go into part 3 and see what more she wants to share with me. Okay, so thumbs up, leave a comment, share, and if you haven't, subscribe, because I ain't going nowhere, because I really truly care about us.
Yeah.
So part 3 coming right back at you.